The Caribbean has always been considered the US backyard. Some of the Cold War's frostiest moments came in battles over the archipelago's islands, particularly the Cuban Missile Crisis. Aside from the notable exception of Cuba, the countries of the Caribbean have historically looked northwards for protection and patronage. Today, in the English-speaking Caribbean, however, China, the US's biggest geopolitical rival, is emerging as a new rival. Xi Jinping, China's powerful president, visited the Caribbean and Mexico this summer and promised the region abundant loans, grants and investments. For many other Caribbean countries that find themselves in dire economic and financial shape, this was a godsend.
I certainly did not frown when the new Chinese president told us in Port of Spain recently that that China was going to invest $3 billion US dollars in the Caribbean, 1.5 billion for infrastructural development and 1.5 billion for concessional lending. We welcome all the help we can get. And I think that China has realized, I mean, it's gone into Africa as well. I think China has realized that it has to reach out to the world. The world can only be a comfortable place for China if countries across the world are enjoying a certain level of development.
China's interest is primarily economic, not political, says Peter Phillips, Jamaica's finance minister.
I suspect with the instability in the circumstances of the dollar, they'll be trying to invest more of this capital rather than holding it in US government securities, and that every area of the globe is going to be affected in that way. Relatively small scale interests, as far as China is concerned, can have huge impact for us here in the Caribbean. And I think each country is trying to take advantage of its own.
But some local activists are concerned that the Caribbean, in its rush to embrace China and attract its money, will make too many compromises on areas such as labour law, human rights and the environment. Beijing insists that Chinese workers and Chinese materials should be used for any project it supports, which causes tension with local labour unions. If the US does not act, Washington might even see itself supplanted by Beijing as the most influential power in the Caribbean. Robin Wigglesworth, Financial Times.
A small, single-economy island nation caught up in one big gamble to bring in more visitors. Shopkeepers with their souvenirs have waited and waited for tourists to materialize.
We need them to open. That's a big building. You know, we need them to open to help out with all our expenses.
Take the Bahamas, for example. The Chinese have swooped in and now own the country because they invested so heavily in infrastructure. They now own the Bahamian government because they've come in and basically made geopolitical pawns out of our neighbors in our hemisphere. Yeah. The Chinese control a country 180 miles off of our coast, and there isn't anybody sounding the alarm. That was where we Americans went and invested all of these resorts there. Tourism is massive in the Bahamas. And what has happened since America pulled out of the Bahamas and China came in? The Bahamian credit rating has been downgraded to just above junk level, and it's absolutely decimated the country. Unemployment is at 17%. Real unemployment is far higher than that, and the Chinese are the only ones benefiting from the investment.
It's the groundbreaking ceremony for China's other major project in Nassau.
We're here to invest, to do the work for the Bahamian and the Bahama countries. As you can see, this project is evidence of what we are doing here.